interesting topic because I always like to say, the concept of it, people try to like try to belittle like what it is and like
Mm.
put it in different categories when it is one thing. You know, I remember when I was little, there would be times like where I'd get beat up a lot, stuff like that, and then you grow up and it's kind of like it locks you into this hole mentally. And it was like for a long time I wasn't able to talk to anybody. When I would present, it like startled me. I remember I would have to do presentations, and a week ahead of that presentation I wasn't able to sleep. Like at night I would
Mm.
just think about how I was gonna have to get up, I was gonna have to go to class, I was to talk in front of all these people, and I wasn't able to talk to people like that. Like I would start getting red, I wasn't able to talk, like it just wasn't possible for me. So I would end up skipping that class, or I would try to avoid it, and sometimes I wouldn't, and I would just make like a mockery of myself. I remember for a long time it was like this, and I taught myself like in my head. I started just telling myself like this is how it was going to be. Like this is just how I was. Like I wasn't able to do all these other things, like
Yeah.
this, like the camera, this, all this stuff. It wasn't possible. Like this was not even an option for me. And I feel
Hmm.
like that's like such an interesting thing to think about how it's like a connection. Like even if you don't think it's a connection, you think it's just how you are. Like it kind of led to that from something
Hmm.
that wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah. I love that. It's really powerful that you said that. So you could tell instinctively that this was something that wasn't supposed to happen, like the treatment, and your disconnect when now in juxtaposition you're so natural, being filmed and what have you, and being able to have these discussions with complete strangers, right? um and the difference, the biggest difference is the safety. There was no safety for you in the past. That setting meant like harm to your person or to your psyche or to your emotional well-being. It meant danger, right? And so everything your body was going through leading up to the day that you would have to do your presentation each time, that's all those heightened cortisol levels keeping you awake, the stress that physically alters your body and alters your brain chemistry. And then by the time you're getting up there, like you were saying, the freezing. So that's the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, right? That response. And for you, it was the freezing, and so then you feel paralyzed. And the strangest part is that you're consciously aware that it's happening while it's happening, and yet you're powerless to get out of that and to not let that happen. And even though you know the material, you know what you're going to say, you have it all scripted out for yourself, to force the words to come out of your mouth in that moment when your body is that afraid of what's coming is nearly impossible, or is impossible. And that right there, where you can't get the words to come out, even though you know it's just all you need to do is say these things, that's called executive dysfunction, meaning your executive movements, whether it be walking forward or clearing your throat or saying the words that you know you need to say, that's not going to happen because that dysfunction is being triggered as a result of that fear paralysis, which is what it is. And so now as an adult, you are able to control the environment through which you're able to connect with people, through which you're able to be in front of a camera, and you know that the audience that's going to be receiving what you put out there is a receptive audience that feels on par with you and that has commonality with you and is not going to judge you, or is going to really take in everything that you're saying in an educational way rather than waiting for any sign of weakness to pounce upon. So the difference between what is safe for us and what isn't, and even as children, our whole body knows when something isn't safe. So that those experiences you had, that was your body correctly advocating for you and trying its hardest to protect you, right? And so nowadays, when you look back on things like that, I really hope that you don't have, or that if you do have it, you're able to talk yourself out of it, but that you don't have a lot of shame built around the fact that you went through that and the fact that you feel as though you could have handled it differently or better, because I promise you that given the tools or lack thereof that you had at the time to deal with things like that, you couldn't have done it any differently than what you did. And honestly, even, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say this or not, but even like being the class clown and a certain degree of like jackassery and like kind of goofing it off to get yourself out of that and play it off like, hey, okay, I'll just take a flunking grade and I'll make fun of the situation just to get myself out of this. That was also a defense mechanism. And again, there's no shame in that. That was what your body decided to do with that scenario. So all we can do now is when we look at things like that from the past, realize how far we've come and really nurture that child inside of us that had to do the hard things in really adult scenarios that we shouldn't really be put in when we're those developmental ages, you know. Even in middle school, it's still so developmental to be sticking kids up in front of people and expecting, you know, senator level public speaking out of them, you know, at a mindset that they were just 12 a year or two ago. It's wild to me, but you know, so you did the best that you could with what you had when you had it. And now that you know better and you're more informed and you're more grounded, look at what you've done, you know.